A family went missing in Disneyland, but its pictures were constantly added to the memory maker. In another story, a strange creature with a bloody face and twisted limbs came in the dead of the night to haunt the room. This video contains 4 creepy tales for dark nights that will make you look twice under your bed before you go to sleep. Watch till the end to hear about the story of the SW. But before getting too engrossed in these horror stories, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting stuff. Creepy things are going to be explored now. I was a schoolboy of just 11 to 12 years old when this creepy incident happened. My name is Michael, and I have never experienced something more mysterious than what occurred to me back in 1997. Those were the days when I used to go to our farmhouse during the holidays. My cousin Alvin always came with me to the big place, and we were best friends. It was the summer holidays, and my parents, Alvin and I, went to our farmhouse. The one thing I liked most about our farmhouse was that it was near a high forest with a wide canopy. The forest was so big that I could never see the end of it. Alvin and I used to spend whole days in the forest. My parents didn't even stop us because the forest was considered safe. One day, we went deep into the forest, using paths that we had never usually taken. We intended to have some adventure and fun, but little did we know that we'd be experiencing something extraordinary that day. We kept on stumbling on rocks and dry twigs and went to the darker and creepier parts of the forest. At first, we enjoyed the day, but as we got deeper, we felt uncomfortable. A few minutes passed, and we were just thinking about returning when we saw an unexpected sight. A giant treehouse was mounted on the tallest tree in that area. Our eyes sparkled at the sight. Finding a treehouse in a forest was a fascinating prospect. For a young boy, nothing was more adventurous than these types of discoveries, especially in dark environments. The treehouse looked old and weary, but was made of strong wood. The windows and doors of the treehouse were closed, and nothing was visible as to what was inside. We were excited to explore it, but the treehouse was placed very high. We decided to come back tomorrow with a lot of rope and other materials to climb up there and play. We went back through the zigzagging paths and finally reached home. Although we almost got lost twice, we were too pumped up to worry about anything. We practically ran back home, and my parents were surprised as to what energized us. We told them all about our morning and what we had discovered deep in the woods. My father took us to the nearby market, and we got a rope there. We planned to throw it on a tree branch near the treehouse and use it to climb up to it. However, before that, we placed rings on the rope to make climbing easier. Our next stop was finding the treehouse again. We packed our backpacks, took the necessary stuff, and went. We chattered, talking about what we would do with the treehouse. We roamed the forest for a solid hour before finally finding the treehouse. We threw the rope up there and started climbing it up. Alvin and I reached the top and walked towards the gate of the treehouse. The wood creaked as we progressed. The view from the top was highly picturesque. Reaching the small door, we stopped and looked at each other. To decide who would go in first, we tossed. Alvin won and cheered. He quickly stepped inside. However, barely a minute passed before he returned with a white face and stood silently. I was confused and surprised as to his reaction. He wasn't telling me anything, so I went inside. What I saw next made me stand still on the spot. Pictures of young girls and boys were pasted on the walls with staples. What made it creepy was that none of them wore any clothes, and there were stains on them like blood. I quickly stepped back outside as the whole environment started giving me the chills. We were at the wrong place. We left everything there, quickly went down, and ran back home as fast as possible. I told my parents what had happened, and they were also shocked. We called the police, but the police officer seemed agitated by us. He kept asking questions like where it was located and why we were in such a deep part of the forest. He asked a few questions and left us alone. A few days later, we all went back to the city with creepy feelings. However, this is not the only strange thing in the story. A few years later, I found out in the newspaper that a cop had shot himself in the head for apparently no reason at all. After his death, I received a horrifying email from Alvin. It stated, "A backpack and rope with rings was available at an auction today." I'm Jay-Z, a 30-year-old guy, and I will tell you about a highly hair-raising horror experience that happened to me a couple of years back. I was living in a flat with my friend on a sharing basis as we were engaged in the same workplace. On that particular week, the incident happened. He was on the night shift and I was alone at home. Although lonely, nights didn't frighten me. I could vividly sense impending doom that night. My gut feeling told me something sinister and horrifying would happen soon. The night passed without further activity, but the following day was terrifying. As soon as I looked into the mirror the next morning, I was shocked to see scratches and light wounds on my face and arms. I was surprised because I had not been engaged in any activity the previous day that would leave such scratches, but I let it pass. However, things turned wild when the same thing happened the next day. I was confused about what was happening to me at night and decided to set up a camera to see. I placed the camera at night and went to sleep. The next day, as soon as I woke up, I checked to see the recording, but shockingly, the camera had disappeared. I moved things and looked everywhere, but it was nowhere to be found. It was as if it had vanished into thin air. The next night was far more horrible than the previous ones. I can't forget those terrifying whispers and groaning sounds that made me wake up in the middle of the night. I thought it must have been my imagination, as I saw nothing around me when I woke up. I switched on the lamp to see more clearly, and what I saw next made the hair on my neck stand up. I was about to scream when I saw bloodstains on the bed and floor. However, something stopped me. At the same time, I felt something itchy in my arms and found scratches there. I was dumbstruck, and it took me about 10 minutes to recover. I checked my windows and door, and everything was okay. I reassured myself that it was just some kind of spider or insect, or that what I had heard was a dream. But the same experience happened the following midnight. I even got a glimpse of the scary creature that made me really petrified. Although it was a single glance, I could clearly describe the features and appearance of that creature. Blackened skin, with long hair and bloody red eyes that made it hideous. And the smirk on its face nearly took my breath away. Before going to work, I told my roommate about the whole thing in the morning. However, he did not believe in these types of paranormal activities. He made fun of me and laughed over it. This made me even more uncomfortable and nervous. I waited for the next night with the adrenaline rushing through my nerves. To my surprise, nothing went unusual until dawn, and finally my eyes started to close. A few days went smoothly, but then I saw it again. That night, my eyes opened suddenly due to movement near me. I saw the creature near me, crawling fast towards me. Its hands were so ugly, and its twisted long nails were about to touch my face when I screamed and turned over. An unknown force gave me courage and I grasped its hand. It was hard like a stone, and nails were thorny that pierced my palm. As soon as I touched it, it slipped from my hands like smoke. It disappeared, but the way it said its last words still echoed in my head. Jay-Z, night-night. I'd grasped it then, but now, the mere image of it made me shake. I packed my things and decided to move. Even if I had to shift to a new country to get rid of that uncanny creature, I would. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories. I've been working with Disneyland for 23 years, but this incident is the worst I have ever experienced. I'm a 50-year-old man named Jack, and I have worked so much in Disneyland that nothing that happened there surprised me anymore. However, I did not know what I had signed up for when I took the missing family case. On one typical day, news reached me that the belongings of a family whose booking dates had ended were still in the room. The booked room had been allocated to a new guest, and we needed to empty the room. However, whenever we called on their number, no one picked up the call. We checked the CCTV footage and discovered that the family had gone to the rides section but never returned. We searched the area but found nothing. Then, I went through the belongings of the family of 2 children, a mother and father, and found a memory maker. All the photos were collected and saved through it. Whenever a Disney camera caught that family, a picture was saved, and it had about 798 photos in that damn memory maker. 700 photos were taken after they were missing. These photos showed the family moving on an unstoppable ride. Although they tried to get off, it was all in vain. I got an uneasy feeling from the way the dolls were moving and the faces of the family were contorted. The fact that the new photos were constantly being added to the memory maker made things even more sinister. I left everything that belonged to the family in its place, told the authorities, and wished that I could get the thing out of my head. People say that saying the SW, skinwalker word, is cursed and invites unfavorable things. Although I don't believe in such theories, my grandmother warned me against saying specific words that invite strange creatures, and hence, danger. Just in her regard, I, being a good granddaughter, prevented saying such words or being where it was said out loud. However, who can stop such creatures from finding you if dealing with them is written in your fate? I, Kelly, was about 28 years old when I experienced this horrifying incident. I used to go to a place with 4 old ladies and look after them for a living. One night, while I was in my room watching reels, I came upon a clip of a person discussing SW. I quickly clicked on the following clip, but by that time, the man had said the word out loud. I was irritated by what had just happened. I was staring at the screen when suddenly I heard footsteps on the roof. A few seconds passed, and the sound grew louder. My face became pale, and my heart beat faster. I got up and checked the windows. They were closed. I drew the curtain, just to ensure myself. I opened the door and looked through it to make sure no one was around. I was alone there. I quickly got into bed and pulled up the cover to my face. I snuggled inside and went to sleep before anything more weird could happen. The next day, I went to the house of the four ladies. Each lived on a different floor. I used to cook food, clean the house for them, and do every other chore. I was in the kitchen when I heard someone growl. I was confused because no one except for four ladies and I were in the house. On top of that, those four ladies were sleeping. I went and checked on them too. I was confused. However, there was work to be done, so I brushed it aside and got to work. I was doing the laundry when I heard someone call my name. It seemed like the lady who lived on the first floor. I was busy, so I shouted back that it would come in a few minutes. However, the next minute, I heard someone grumble my name and ask me to come quickly. This time, it sounded like the lady who lived on the second floor. I got up and went to check what was wrong. When I reached the room and asked what the issue was, the lady looked at me as if I was mad. Her reaction astounded me. I had no other option but to quickly finish the task and go home. I heard something again when I finally got out of the house and into the parking lot. It was like the howl of a wolf. I looked around, but there was nothing. But the sound was becoming high-pitched. It turned into a gurgly throat slit sound that hurt my ears. I was so frustrated by the continuous fear and the sound ringing in my ear that rage filled me up. I punched the air and shouted in anger. The voices stopped suddenly. As it became silent, I sat in my car and drove away. After that day, I never heard anything strange despite a few barking or licking sounds. I think that something I did that night earned me the respect of the legendary dogman who eats up SW. Thanks to it, I can freely roam around and not fear about SW. These stories show that you never know what might happen next in your life, so tread carefully when it comes to the paranormal world, because creepy things with bloody teeth are hiding in the shadows around us. Better keep out of the way of these dangerous creatures because their next move is highly unpredictable. So, stay safe and sleep peacefully.